Hello everybody! Welcome to this video on the cure objective. My name is Michael Grünstäudl, and I would especially like to welcome those of you who attend my Biology 325L, that is Genetics Laboratory class, now in fall semester 2025. Today is October 11th, 2025. It's a Sunday. Shortly after sunset, it's about I would need to look at it. I think it's about 6:45. Oh no, it's actually 7 o'clock right now, straight 7 o'clock. And we are here at Big Creek in Frontier Park in Hays, Kansas. And what you see behind you, this is a 360-degree video. So if you're on the right app, that you can circle around. What you see over there on the other side to where I'm pointing is Big Creek. And you'll see there's a weirdish greenish slick on it. It's true there's also a little bit of trash floating in it and the first few leaves that fell from the tree. After all, fall is around the corner. But what you particularly see is this weird greenish slick on the surface, almost as if it's a little oily. Now, this by itself is not yet an evidence, but a good indication that we have a cyanobacterial bloom going on. It's a little bit late in the year. I mean, today is the 11th of October. That is a little bit late in the year for a cyanobacterial bloom, especially here in western Kansas. The cyanobacterial blooms should be primarily in July and August, but we have had a pretty nice fall so far. So it is theoretically possible that what you're looking here is a cyanobacterial bloom. Now that in and by itself is not yet an issue, because there are cyanobacterial blooms that may be harmful algal blooms where the cyanobacteria release toxins, or it may not. There are some cyanobacteria species that do not release toxins, that they form cyanobacterial blooms, but those are not harmful algal blooms. By the way, cyanobacteria are not algae, even though we call them harmful algal blooms, what they cause, but taxonomically speaking, they're bacteria, not algae. But that's a side aspect. So how do we find out if this really is a cyanobacterial bloom, or if some other species, some other maybe photosynthetic species is actually accumulating here on the water surface? And if it is a cyanobacterial bloom, what kind of cyanobacteria is predominant in this bloom, is predominant in the water? Those are the questions we would like to answer with the help of our course-based undergraduate research experience, our cure. This cure is the main objective of the second half of the course Bio 325L that I'm teaching this semester. And you will receive a course handout for that cure that gives you a general overview of the laboratory steps that you're supposed to do in this course-based undergraduate research experience. Mind you, I'm no longer giving you exact instructions like in the previous experiments, because this is a research job for you. But what I do want to show you live, unedited, in its full glory, is how do we actually collect these cyanobacteria, well, from a presumed cyanobacterial bloom. You see, what I have here are algae nets here that we'll use in just a moment in order to collect some of these surface organisms. Again, we don't really know if they are cyanobacteria or not. So we're going to collect them, and then we're going to store them temporarily in these falcon tubes. I've pre-labeled a few of them already. And then when I'm back in the laboratory, a teaching assistant of mine or one of my student research assistants, or I myself, are going to fill them over into an actual culturing flask that will be filled with the appropriate culturing medium. There are certain nutrient media that cyanobacteria love, and we would then try to have them being cultured in that flask, literally make a small mini bloom in here, so that we can harvest, we can first accumulate and then harvest these cyanobacteria, these presumed cyanobacteria that you see here behind you in Big Creek. So we're gonna fill these presumed cyanobacteria, whatever these organisms are, first in here, and then in the lab I'm going to transfer them to these culture flasks. They will then be agitated around the clock with sunshine, simulated sunshine from a growth light for about 15 hours a day, thereby cultivating and ideally accumulating them in these flasks. But we're not there yet. We first have to collect them. So I'm taking you with me here to the corner, to the edge of Big Creek, so that we can sample them together. Now again, it's pretty late in the day. The day is almost over. The sun has already set, but this is the right time to collect cyanobacteria because they have accumulated on the surface of the water for the day. It has been a very sunny day so far. So now we should have the highest concentration if we just skim off the top of the water. When you collect them with these algae nets, it's important to make sure that you stay on the surface of the water. Don't let the algae net all the way sink to the floor and then basically scoop up some of the sediment, like some of the slick, some of the soil, because that will not help the cyanobacterial growth. Instead, what you want is just the surface. So let's see how I can collect them, how well I am doing this. All right, since this is a 360-degree camera, you should be seeing me just as well as you just did a moment ago. And let's give this a first spin. I'll try to avoid some of the trash that is located, unfortunately, here in Big Creek. Let's see, maybe I gotta give it a little bit more line in just a second, but let's make a first. All right, I'll get this immediately from the surface here. I'm sure I have some leaves now in here, but hopefully, let's see how. I should have been wearing gloves, to be honest, but let's see. Well, some of that. No, we're gonna call this the first test, an unsuccessful test, more specifically, because there was lots of leaf matter in here, pretty dark. Let me throw this a little further. I'm gonna give more line here. Yeah, I should have been wearing gloves, but I'm gonna wash my hands afterwards very decently. All right. A little further this time. All right, and immediately get it off so that it doesn't sink. All right. Let's have a look. Yeah, we do get lots of plant matter here, but it is not as, you can see lots of plant matter, but it is not as strongly soily as the water before. So let's give this our first try. Over here, let's see. Obviously this needs to be filtered, that water, in order to get rid of some of that plant matter, but all in all, I think, so the water has a greenish shimmer to it. Oh no, darn, I didn't mean to do that. Now I have literally trashed the tip came off and fell straight into the river. Well, fortunately I have two more of those here. All right, so first sample collection done. I think, it's pretty dark already, but I think we have some good cyanobacteria in here. Let's make a second collection here at Big Creek at Frontiers Park in Hayes, Kansas, and today is October the 11th, 2025, a Sunday. Okay, let's see. Second try. I'm gonna try a little bit further out and maybe to the other side here. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, that's the making sure it doesn't sink too quickly. Okay, I think I've avoided most of the leaves here. And, yep. Ah, dark again. I think I'm catching a lot of plant matter, but I'm going to filter this out later. That plant matter literally with a little nylon filter. So, oh yeah, but I can, ooh, the smell is pretty intense actually. Clearly there's something foulish, which typically is indicative of, oh hi, little water critter, which typically is indicative of these cyanobacterial blooms. They do have a very particular smell, and quite frankly that's exactly the smell that is going on here. Let's do a third and last collection here. Again, I'll label this properly. Big Creek, Hayes, Kansas, on the 11th of October. The date is actually very important because people later or in the future will want to know when these bacterial blooms occur, if it is a bacterial bloom in the first place, but when they occur, so that if necessary they can close certain stretches of the park. Now this area here is not good for swimming anyways, but I do see quite a few people going fishing here, and if this is a cyanobacterial bloom, then you do not want to take some of the fish home and eat them. Not that necessarily that's what the great majority of people do. I think it's more recreational fishing. Okay, let's only get surface now. But you certainly do not want to take fish and consume them when they have been in a cyanobacterial bloom. Obviously, these cyanobacteria also harm, at least the cyanotoxins. They also harm the fish, but the fish typically accumulate these cyanobacteria, and a consumer of the fish, the fish accumulate the toxins of the cyanobacteria, and the consumer of the fish might then feel it even stronger than the fish itself. All right, I can see here quite a bit of plant matter here, but there are green algae in here and maybe some bacteria as well. So we have collected 3 different samples. They will be cultivated over the next few days in, oh, I even have a tiny little fish in here. Sorry. No, it's actually not a fish. Oh, that's a larvae. That's a mosquito larvae. Well, you'll be filtered out a little later. But those presumable cyanobacterial accumulations here will be cultivated in the lab in the right bacterial and cyanobacterial growth medium, and then I will hand the respective flasks with these cyanobacteria to you, so that for the cure you can then do a DNA barcoding experiment where you amplify the DNA barcodes for these cyanobacteria, and then we will even sequence these cyanobacteria and try to identify, if they are cyanobacteria, what kind of strain they are. If they are a toxic strain, under which condition I better go and wash my hands now, or if they are a relatively harmless non-toxic strain, under which condition we still want to know what they are. So yeah, I guess you'll see this video when you're sitting in the lab, or when I send it out per email, but this is how your samples were collected. So With that, I'll wish you a good evening and happy lab work with this cure on DNA barcoding of cyanobacteria, among others, right here from Big Creek in Hays, Kansas.